Hello guys, in this video we will cover what we already done before. As you remember, I was drawing using this special tool, but in fact when you work with a team, in the team, you're not necessarily drawing, you know. You might like to draw, you can put it on your paper or with this tool, but actually there are some other tools that are in use for these specific purposes. I'm talking about one thing, writing user story, you remember, and second one, drawing diagrams. So there are two different tools and we will cover it. Um, the first tool that I want to cover is called Trello. I don't know what it means, honestly, but this is a good tool. Let's look at this. So let me just zoom in, I mean, a little bit. So as you can see, this is a Trello, the tool. There you can create several workspaces. I already have some here where I'm working on another project. It's called Auto Trader Python project. We can cover it by the way, but not today. So for our project, we will create a separate workspace. Let's do it. So this is our workspace. Let's call it. It's gonna be, I don't know, doesn't matter. Engineering IT. Uh, and workspace name will be educational project. Okay. Educational project. We can describe the team. Basically, it's me and you, right? Let's do it. What else? Invite someone to your team. I can invite myself, but let's do it later. Okay, here we go. We have educational project, edu education project. Okay, the education. I did typo. Education project is good enough. Um, and here we can create a new board. Let's do it. The board will be application application one, right? We don't know the name for our application that we're building. If you remember, we're building something that looks like a calendar but not a calendar. It has to do with the activities that our clients want to plan for themselves because they're so busy and they cannot handle um, their time, their whatever they're doing. They're always switching from one task to another. So this is a general context, right? And that is the application that we are building. And I don't have a name for that. Let's just call it maybe task tracking app for now. Okay, let's create it. This is going to be our workspace or workplace. Okay, and here what is interesting. I don't like this background. I can change it maybe later. What is interesting is we have several sections here. As you can see, to do, doing, and done. That's kind of important piece. By the way, this application also is handling tasks, right? Something that theoretically we can use or maybe suggest to our clients. Maybe everything they need is this Trello application. I don't know. We'll figure out later. Um, but I guess they need something else. Anyway, and here, as you can see, there is a to-do section. The to-do section is what we have to do basically, right? Let's say, I don't know, let's put just test. And then we can create another test too. Okay, I got it. Um, then edit, open a card. Here we go. So what we can do here is to create our user story. The user story is something, yeah, user story one. Right now we're not very good on naming, we don't care, we just want to start with something. And this will be our user story that we mentioned previously. I will repeat myself here because it's always nice to repeat. Um, so imagine me, business analyst, or imagine you being business analyst, and you are writing this description for the user. User is talking, and you're just trying to understand what he's talking about and put in information after him. And you put in this specific manner that we discussed, something like that. As a user, I want this and that so that I can properly track my tasks. Okay, I'm not gonna fill it right away fully. I'll just remind you what it is about. I will fill it myself and we will come to this later on. But as an exercise for you, you can try to create your own user story and put details to this from using this information from the previous video. Right now, I'm just trying to demo it to you. It's pretty simple. This Trello, by the way, um, it's kind of simplified version of what usually people use. People use another application usually, but there are many applications for that um, for tracking um, the tasks for the team to build a product, right? So this is what this is about. But this Trello application is kind of generic and simplified, and it's kind of nice to use it because there is no any extra complexity there, right? So that's why we start using this. So imagine that there is a story, and right now someone is working on it actually, but we're not really working, we're just describing it. So this is what has to be done to do. So user story, and then we open it, we read it, okay, and then as soon as someone is working on it, so technically me as a business analyst, I'm working on this story right now, right? But and I can create a task for me, or someone else can create a task for me. Talk to the user and document the user story. Okay, bam. Let's turn it off. Then this someone will put it to progress. So I'm doing this, I'm working on this. And this story could be assigned to people. You see change member. You can, right now it's assigned to myself, but it could be assigned to someone else. So in this case, me is analyst, right? Business analyst, but it could be someone else. Let's say analyst 2. And then imagine that there are many stories, many tasks, and everyone is working on it. So there are many people, a team working on the same for the same goal, right? And you just go in there, you can see everything what's going on right now, what is in progress, what is in done state. There could be any some other states, let's say like a testing phase. It could be like a hardening, like a problem, something. So, but my point is, you're gonna see everything here as a team member, and this is good thing. So, as I said, let's summarize. There is a tool. Trello that is used for creating tasks for the team to work together. Okay, and usually if you write it user story, you don't write it in Word or Excel. Well, you could, but eventually you'll put it somewhere to be visible for everyone, because all these details um, could be covered, um, added, edited, etc. And we can keep everything in one place. I guess it makes sense. It's kind of obvious right now, I hope. So we covered this tool. Let's switch to another. This one is dedicated for architects, for guys who draw in diagrams, basically. They do more than that, but quite often they draw diagrams. As you remember, we've already been drawing these two diagrams that I covered. One is sequence diagram and another is activity diagram. Let's see if we can create it using this tool. So the tool is called Draw.io. We go there. You can use your Google Drive to store all these files. This tool is free. It's good. So let's create a new diagram. What we're interested in is this type of diagram, UML. It stands for a Unified Model Language. Okay, and as you can see, there are already some templates actually. Just wondering, can we create a diagram without the template at all? I don't know, but let's just go with something, some random one. Create a root. No, not root. Let's use this. Okay, UML. As you can see, there is some template. We are not interested in that template. We just removed everything. Here we go. We have this UML diagrams, and here you can use it to build, let's say, uh, activity diagram. You remember we've been drawing this, right? So this is our user. Let me just zoom it for you. I guess this is better. Use case diagram. Open an application. This is what user can do. What kind of use case? Edit. I remember. Create an activity. Edit activity. I'm just repeating exactly what we did before. Or maybe not exactly, but approximately. Edit activity. And there is a line like that. As simple as this. It's kind of useful tool actually. Simple and useful. Here we go. This way, easily, we can describe what user can do with the application. Of course, it can go deeper. We can drill down to describe things in more details, how exactly he can edit, for example. So he can edit separately a field. Let's say edit a title, or it can edit a progress. As you remember, our activity has a progress. We start something, the progress is 0%, and when it's done, it's 100%. If we use percentage points. But anyway, uh, that's the idea. So this one, that was activity diagram, use case diagram. It's kind of the same thing, actually. Okay, the next thing we will create another diagram. This will be sequence diagram. As you remember, we discussed this in one of my videos where I was drawing, but right now we'll use the specific diagram for that. So again, email, and again, a user. No, user. First of all, before we go anywhere, look, in this diagram, use case diagram, we also have a user. This user doing all these cases, his or her use cases, right? In sequence diagram, we also have a user, but this diagram is different. This diagram is used when we need to describe something in details, like when something happening in the sequence, and usually things happening in the sequence in life. So because this is a sequence diagram, we can put more details in it. It's one thing. Another thing that I want to highlight is that the diagrams are used by architects, the guy who is architecting basically. And if it's a big organization, there could be different kind of architects. The one who is on like upper level, closer to the user, to business analyst, to PO, product owner, etc. Right? And one who is closer to actual work, if we will, to developers. And those guys, they can use sequence diagram to describe things more in more details, to be closer to reality. So uh, whatever they build, if we create right now this sequence diagram, the next step, the next guy who will be using it will be a developer. Developer will be looking at this diagram and checking, okay, user calls this, he doing this, then there is some other stuff, and in sequence, right? And the developer will able to understand it and code it basically. So for him, it's quite kind of useful to have these two diagrams, especially the second one, right? And and for the uh, business analyst, it's kind of nice to see this use case diagram, or for um, solution architect or whatever, domain architect. It's nice to see this use case diagram because it's giving you all these activities that user performs, which is kind of nice, nice to know about this and not to forget to be close to the user, you see? And at the end of the day, actually, if it's a simple application, like in our case, we are just single guy who doing all this, right? Real hero. Okay, let's come back to sequence diagram. The sequence diagram user, there is a user and application, right? At least there are two things, subject and object. You know, it's like in Descartes in philosophy. He came up with these ideas, by the way, kind of. Okay, so the subject is a user, so user can do something. The object is our application. This application could consist of many pieces. It could be same thing here, piece 1, piece 2, piece 3, etc. But right now, for simplicity, we imagine that it consists of itself, from itself, just an application, right? Okay, let me draw something and then explain. So this is a dotted line. Okay. Okay. So the dotted line is representing the time. The time goes from up to bottom. So whatever user does, it will be aligned and put on time. Usually we draw time like this, right? From left to right and then T time. But in this case, time goes down. Just accept it. Then whatever user does, it will be this bar. It represents the action. And this action, when user, let's say, calls or opens the application, it will trigger some action in the application itself. So application will be opening, right? So in this case, we can just say open. So user just opens the application, you see, and it takes some time to open it. I'm not gonna align these lines right now, but they're supposed to be straight like that. So we see one thing happens after another. Then what else user can do? User can edit the application. So we put it like this. I'm just doing copy paste in case you're wondering. Okay. Yeah, strange. Anyway, edit the application. Right? What else we can put? Let's say, just imagine for now that this is the application, our application, but let's say there is some kind of database somewhere. Database. And when we open application, so it just opens, it's not interesting, but let's say when we create a new activity, create an activity. What happens next? The application creates the activity, but it has to store this activity somewhere, like to persist it. And for that, we most likely will be using some database. It could be cloud database, it could be local database, and something like that. And this is just a representation that application doesn't exist by itself. There is always something else, right? We can represent application by pieces, like a piece 1, module 2, module 3. So in this case, database is kind of a persistent module, if we will. So when we create an activity and let's say everything is created successfully, then it will, let's say, persist this data to database. Okay, so you see on this diagram we have more details. Usually it's bigger and even more details, and we can add more stuff to this. Let's compare these two. So sequence diagram and use case diagram. In use case diagram we just said, okay, create the activity and that's it. That's enough. Because it's kind of high level. We don't know where this activity goes, who's responsible for creating this. There is no validation, nothing like that. We don't mention anything where this activity will be stored and how exactly it will be stored, what protocol is going to use, whether it's cloud or not. But here we can actually specify all this stuff, right? So there are more already. There are much more data. And it's just a beginning. Okay, you're still with me? Okay, cool. So that's enough for now, and see you in the next one.